Here are the stories we're covering this week in the Category 5.tv newsroom. A nasty code execution bug in WinRAR threatened millions of users for 14 years. Ready for another fright? Spectre flaws in today's computer chips can be exploited to hide, run stealthy malware. A pair of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise servers sent up to the International Space Station in August 2017 as an experiment have still not come back to Earth 3 months after their intended return. And Microsoft's HoloLens 2 has been announced for $3,500 and is available to pre-order now to ship out later this year. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
This is the Category 5.tv newsroom, covering the week's top tech stories with a slight Linux bias.
Jeff Weston,
Yeah, man.
you're building a brand new, beautiful website,
What?
aren't you?
No. Am I?
Oh, you're a terrible actor.
What?
This is where acting comes into play.
Oh, I didn't know we were acting.
You're supposed to act.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I'm building a really cool website. Are you building a really cool website? Just because Jeff is confused doesn't mean you have to be. Visit cat5.tv/dreamhost to sign up for unlimited web hosting for your website with unlimited email accounts, MySQL databases, the latest version of PHP, WordPress, and more, and even a free domain name registration. It's less than $6 per month, so sign up today. cat5.tv/dreamhost.
I'm Sasha Rickman, and here are the top stories we're following this week. Before I start the first story, I will tell you that I do have a speech impediment with R's. So,
With the R's.
this is a big, important story about WinRAR, which
Yes.
I am going to say wrong at some point.
WinRAR is like an old archiving tool,
Yeah.
but people still use it
Exactly.
on Windows.
People who can say their R's.
So, full disclosure, total disclaimer.
Exactly. I'm going to do my very best.
It might be WinRAR.
It might be.
It's fine.
RinWAR.
It could be anything.
I'm going to do my super best. Bear with me. It's WinRAR. Every time it sounds kind of odd.
All right.
A nasty code execution bug in WinRAR threatened millions of users for 14 years. If you're one of the 500 million WinRAR users, now would be a good time to patch. WinRAR, a Windows file compression program with 500 million users worldwide, recently fixed a more than 14-year-old vulnerability that made it possible for attackers to execute malicious code when targets opened a booby-trapped file. The vulnerability was the result of an absolute patch transversal flaw that resided in Untitled version 2.dll, a third-party code library that hasn't been updated since 2005. The traversal made it possible for archive files to extract to a folder of the archive creator's choosing rather than the folder chosen by the person using the program. Because the third-party library doesn't make use of the exploit mitigations such as address space layout randomization, there was little preventing exploits. The most obvious path is to have an executable file extracted to the Windows startup folder where it would run on the next reboot. It was easy to bypass Windows permissions required to write to that folder. In release notes published late last month, WinRAR officials said they patched the vulnerability. They said Untitled version 2.dll had not been updated since 2005 and we do not have access to its source code. So we decided to drop ACE archive format support to protect security of WinRAR users. The code execution vulnerability in WinRAR has existed the entire 14 years since the Untitled version 2 library was created, and possibly earlier.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
A couple of points that this brings up for me. One, how many other tools out there used Unace? Like ACE is another archival format.
Right.
Okay, so you've got zip, you've got tar.gz, you've got 7-zip, you've got all the RAR.
Yeah.
Right? So WinRAR, like 7-zip and other tools, want to be the, like everybody install this and you can unzip, unarchive everything. So they include Unace. And 14 years it took them to discover this. Yet it's such a common practice. I can't believe it. Like tar.gz has for ages. So if you try to create a tar file and you include a path that starts with a slash, it will say stripping away the leading slash because it's protecting the unarchived process from going into folders that you have not allowed it to traverse.
Right.
Obviously, Unace did not have that same level of protection.
For a long time.
14 years.
That's bananas.
I wonder how much this was exploited. So if someone could put this file, like a malicious file, in that archive and have it extract to anywhere. Anywhere. The startup folder is just a great example.
Yeah.
But
it could be,
holy cow.
anything, anywhere.
But how many other tools are using that Unace? I mean, it's an
Yeah.
old product, right?
But still, I mean...
You don't really need it. Some people install WinRAR, or WinZip is another example. They'll install WinZip thinking that they need it in order to unzip zip files. No, you haven't for a long time. RAR's different because that's their own format. So you have to have their tool or something on Linux or something like that. 7-zip is a good one.
See, 7-zip, I can say that.
Why couldn't the story have been about 7-zip, she says. Yeah, you made it through real good.
Hey, thanks. Woo, thanks for your patience. Ready for another fright? Spectre flaws in today's computer chips can be exploited to hide and run stealthy malware. Spectre, the security vulnerabilities in modern CPU's speculative execution engines, can be exploited to steal sensitive data. Just won't die quietly in the IT world. Its unwelcomed persistence isn't merely a consequence of the long lead time required to implement mitigations in chip architecture. It also sustained by its ability to inspire novel attack techniques. The latest of these appeared in a paper presented at the Network and Distributed Systems Security Symposium in San Diego, California on Monday. Co-authored by 3 computer science researchers from the University of Colorado, the paper, Spectre, Hiding Malware in Speculative Execution, describes a way to compile malicious code into a seemingly innocuous payload binary so it can be executed through speculative execution without detection. Speculative execution is a technique in modern processors that's used to improve performance alongside out-of-order execution and branch prediction. CPUs will speculate about future instructions and execute them, keeping the results and saving time if they've guessed the program path correctly, and discarding them if not. But last year's Spectre flaws showed that sensitive transient data arising from these forward-looking calculations can be abused. Now it turns out that this feature of the chip architecture can be used to conceal malicious computation. The researchers have devised a way in which a payload program and a trigger program can interact to perform concealed calculations. The payload and trigger program would be installed through commonly used attack vectors such as a Trojan or phishing scam. When a trigger program runs on the same machine as is infected with the payload, it tricks the CPU's branch predictor, causing the payload program to speculatively execute its malicious bidding. The result is stealth malware. It defies detection through current reverse engineering techniques because it executes in a transient environment not accessible to static or dynamic analysis used by most current security engines. Even if the trigger program is detected and removed, the payload code will remain operating. The researchers have reiterated what may have already been stated. These flaws need to be addressed in the chips themselves. Until then, they expect malicious parties to create variants of their proof of concept malware technique.
Ooh.
That's scary stuff.
I've never even, as you're telling this story, Sasha, it's crossing my mind, and it never has, how this type of technique could be used to trick AI into performing malicious tasks. Like, understand, like the processors on your computer are meant, they're trying to make them fast.
Right.
So they add predictive technology to make it think ahead what's coming.
Right.
Oh, I think you're going to ask for this, so I'm going to prepare it and be ready to do it.
And then if you don't, ding, it just doesn't. Yeah.
But if you do, well, it's already ready.
Yeah.
It's already done. I've got it. Boom, done.
Yeah.
It seems fast. So if we can maliciously trick it into making that a payload, which is exactly what the researchers have accomplished.
Wow.
That's frightening. Now take that and put it into artificial intelligence and say, okay, we've got AI that is basically the ultimate predictive technology. It is thinking for itself. It is making decisions for itself, which is exactly what machine learning is. It's learning for itself.
Right.
It's creating its own algorithms. So if you can cause machine learning to create its own algorithms because that is its design, then what's to stop a malicious party from tricking the artificial intelligence into creating algorithms that are malicious?
Right.
I've never made that connection before now. And now I just want to find a dark place somewhere to hide.
They're saying chip manufacturers are the ones that have to actually...
It's a hardware flaw.
Yeah, so...
I mean, but how do you stop it?
Right. I guess you
Spectre is
can't
there.
stop
It's
it
part of
going
the processor.
backwards,
Yeah,
but you
can't
could...
reverse.
Exactly, but going forward, you could have better practice, but then does that even...
Slow down the processors. People wouldn't have it.
I guess
We'll
not.
go with the previous generation because they're faster,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
You know it's true.
It's...
So then we got to get into new computational models, and that's what they're pushing for.
Ultra.
But yeah, it comes down to the hardware manufacturers.
It's unsettling.
Yes, it is. Yes, it indeed is.
A pair of Hewlett-Packard Enterprise servers sent up to the International Space Station in August 2017 as an experiment have still not come back to Earth 3 months after their intended return. Together they make up the Spaceborne Computer, a Linux system that has supercomputer processing power. They were sent up to see how durable they would be in space with minimal specialist treatment. After 530 days, they are still working. Their return flight was postponed after a Russian rocket failed in October 2018. HPE senior content architect Adrian Kasbergen said that they may return in June 2019 if there is space on a flight, but right now they haven't got a ticket. The company is working with NASA to be computer ready for the first manned Mars flight, estimated to take place in about 2030. The company is also working with Elon Musk's SpaceX. Currently, the 20-year-old machines controlling the ISS return data to Earth for processing. This is possible because it takes less than a second to get the data back. But on a Mars mission, the time taken for a data round trip will grow to more than 40 minutes as the planet is millions of miles away. That means the data processing will have to be done on the spaceship itself. The Spaceborne computer is currently embedded in the ceiling of the ISS. They were placed in an airtight box with a radiator that is hooked up to the ISS water cooling system. Hot air from the computer is guided through the radiator to cool down and then circulated back. But there have been problems with the redundancy power supply as well as some of the redundant solid-state drives. The devices will need to be inspected back on Earth to find out what went wrong.
I love that they're planning so much for the Mars missions.
So let's test this, make sure it's ready for Mars.
2 weeks. I'm just getting ready for it. 2 weeks. If you get the reference, I'll send you a cookie.
Yeah. I get no cookie.
Okay.
But what is cool about this is that they're still working up there. I mean, there's been some, you know.
Yeah, well, it's Linux.
Yeah,
I mean, it's die-hard,
it's awesome.
Right? Yeah, it's got redundant power supplies and redundant SSDs and everything else. But I wonder what could cause them to fail up there. I mean...
radiation particles zapping.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But also the other thing is that, you know, you talked about the space station's current computers, which are old and slow, 20 years old. They cost millions of dollars to install those. Yeah. Right? Like back in the day, 20 years ago, right? Now they can send something up, Hewlett-Packard sends something up, and it just costs like thousands of dollars to do that. Like, well, to manufacture the hardware. Yeah. The cost has come down so far. So to be able to send up something that's the power of a supercomputer, and it can just be sent up into space, and they're wondering what's going on with it. Like, there are a couple of issues, but it's still operational. It's still sending data back and still working. So the
first Linux computer on Mars, Linux, right?
Well, yeah. Well, there are Spark servers up there. There are other Linux machines up there.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any windows on Mars right now. I doubt it. It'd crash.
Crash landing. Must be Windows.
There's definitely some Spark up there. There's some Power PCs up there. And I guess they'd be running like a form of Unix.
Okay.
It's kind of like a predecessor to Linux. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff up there. It's just getting the people there now.
Right.
And see, how we can communicate back and how we can call for help.
Well, you're looking for help on Mars if you're living on Mars. You're not calling Earth for help. That's for sure.
Send help. If it takes 40 minutes to get the transmission,
right,
let alone the people.
Please hold.
Yeah.
Your request is being held in priority sequence.
As Elon Musk said, it's a one-way trip.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Microsoft's HoloLens 2 has been announced for $3,500 and is available to pre-order now to ship out later this year. Comfort, better visuals, and easier to use with your hands. That's the takeaway from HoloLens 2, Microsoft's follow-up to the space-age goggles it announced 4 years ago. The technology behind the $3,500 HoloLens 2 device, which Microsoft calls mixed reality, overlays computer images on the real world. Imagine arrows directing you down the street as you walk, or repair instructions floating over a machine as you fix it. That's mixed reality's promise, according to Microsoft. The company was the pioneer in augmented reality world when the tech giant debuted its first headset in 2015, charging companies $5,000 apiece for the gadget. Since then, rival devices, such as the $2,295 Magic Leap, have come on the scene. At prices like that, MR headsets are far more expensive than the competing VR technology currently on the market. Facebook's Oculus Rift, for example, is $349, HTC's Vive is $499, and Sony's PlayStation VR is $299. You have to buy a computer or a PlayStation 4 console to power these VR devices. But even then, their prices are at least half what Microsoft or Magic Leap are asking. That hasn't deterred Microsoft from designing an improved headset as part of its push into the now far busier AR universe. The company says HoloLens still isn't ready for you and me to use at home, though. Instead, Microsoft is focused on companies and the military. But that has stirred employee dissent. As of yesterday, more than 250 employees have signed an open letter denouncing the deal. Aside from that caveat, Microsoft has made some welcome improvements to the device, which goes on pre-order Sunday and will be shipping later this year. So does that mean I could order it and have it? Or I have to be part of the...
You want to pre-order it and do it.
Yeah.
AR
well, you know I want to. AR sounds
so cool.
like the best thing ever, actually.
So virtual reality being like you are immersed in a virtual environment and everything that you do and see is virtual.
Right.
Augmented reality or this particular type of technology is like interacting in your world with virtual things. So looking at it from a perspective of like industry, being able to like, let's say I'm manufacturing something, and now with my augmented reality, I can overlay and see how this is supposed to line up. And so now I can actually line it up the way that it's supposed to be because I can actually see it. I can see how I'm supposed to do it in front of me. And now with the HoloLens 2, that's all you need.
Right.
And it tracks your hands and it tracks your movement in such a way that it's like genius, the way that it's able to just, it's a headset, and that's...
And I feel like it's good for people who have like even safety issues. Like if I were going into like a concert or a busy spot and I wanted to know where the exits are, they would be automatically like there. Or I could say how many people are in this room, like automatically, because it could sense and tell and count probably, right? So directions, you'd never get lost again.
Think about gaming though.
Right.
Yeah, directions is cool.
Or knowing when something is done, like cooked, it just can tell you by looking at it. Yep, that's ready.
Normal eyes do that too, but it's kind of interesting. I think gaming, like, I mean, being able to play a game on your tabletop.
Right.
Being able to take the pieces and move them even though they are virtual. Even though they're not physically there. So now all of a sudden it becomes your one point of entertainment where you don't need, it's like the smartphone, right?
Yeah.
We don't need a calculator anymore. We don't need this and that and all these other, a camera and a video camera and all these devices that we used to have, a Walkman.
Right.
And now you've got a phone in your pocket that does it all.
Right.
So now take a HoloLens and say, okay, well, with this technology, I no longer need a chessboard. I no longer need even a computer.
Right.
Because I can just, okay, well, I'll just interact like Minority Report.
Yeah.
And I can see that screen in front of me.
If you think about it, like for things like, say for rehab for somebody who's had a stroke, say, and they can't write any longer, but it can show you, you know, because you can see with your eyes what your hands should be doing, right? Learning
There
cursive.
are so
or
many
something
different
like-
things that it could be done for.
They're too expensive right now.
Phone calls. That's going to happen too, right?
Yes.
Like, hey, Mom. Holographically, she's all of a sudden in the room. You got to have your HoloLens on, but it works. Yeah.
That is bananas. It's so
Cool
cool.
stuff.
Love it.
Okay, should we jump into our crypto report for the
Yes.
week? Just to take a really quick look at how things are looking from CoinGecko. This is what it looked like as of 1800 hours Eastern Time on Wednesday, February 27th, 2019. Pretty much everything has gone down a little bit. So, you know, we were like, hey, it was on its way up. And this kind of demonstrates how the market is constantly changing. So, you know, when we say it's volatile, keep that in mind. Bitcoin went down $193.62 USD, down to $3,765.24 in the past week. Litecoin down $7.04 to $44.06. Ethereum is at $130.97. Monero at $47.69. Stellite is at 1.51 ten-thousandths of a cent.
Aw.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And Turtlecoin is the one gainer, gaining a whopping 0.07 ten-thousandths of a cent. Think about that for a second.
But it grew a little.
If we still had a penny,
Right.
take a piece of your hair, and
Right.
put it on that penny, and just measure it. The width
Yeah.
of that hair. That's how much Turtlecoin gained.
It's like having a open palm and just putting like one single grain of salt. That's how much you got. But growth is growth. You're the only guy.
Slow and steady
That's
wins
right.
the race. Way to go, Turtlecoin. You are the one gainer.
Congratulations
this week.
on your
Yes.
growth.
Fantastic. Remember, as I say, the cryptocurrency market is always volatile, and it never closes.
That's right. Big thanks to Roy W. Nash and our community of viewers for submitting stories to us this week. Thanks for watching the Category 5.tv newsroom. Don't forget to like and subscribe for all your tech news with a slight Linux bias. And for more free content, be sure to check out our website. From the Category 5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Rickman.
And I'm Robbie Ferguson. Thank you so much for being here again with us this week. Looking forward to seeing you again, same time, same place, 1 week from now. See you, everybody.